Well, today was supposed to be a lot better than it's going so far. There was a person who I was supposed to be going over their house to, I guess, be with during this very festive time tomorrow. And what I thought was going to happen was I would get up, as I usually do, and do my stream at my allotted times, always like 10 something, because generally this person likes to sleep in. They like to, nap during the weekend, which would be people have the right to do whatever. But I thought I would be able to do my stream while they're asleep, and then when they get up, they come over and they help me, you know, relocate to their place for a day or so. Instead, what ended up happening was that they basically just pulled the rug from under me. I wake up this morning. I have a text message from them that's like 40 minutes before it was sent. So I was asleep and it was sent 40 minutes ago. And they tell me that they're getting their hair done and they'll be there in an hour. And or rather, I asked them how long is it going to take for them to do this. They say an hour. I say that's not good because usually I stream, for 2 hours, right? So I just think about them like, I would have had no problem getting up and doing a stream earlier because I've done streams at sometimes 6 in the morning. If this person had told me they were going to be doing something that would get them up in the morning, and then they were planning on coming over here around, 11, 12, whatever time, they think they're coming. But this is the type of stuff that really irritates me because I have no problem making accommodations with things when you want me to just completely curtail my schedule for you without any forewarning or, actual. I mean, I had no way of predicting that they were going to do this the day before. It's just, it's so weird. And I was pretty irritated. So I told him, I'll just do it myself. If this is the only time you can do this today, I'll just do it myself. Because I have just wanted to get upstream and not feel like I have some kind of time limit on me. I don't like that. So they created a lot of friction for no reason. All of this could have been avoided if they had just told me, "Hey, by the way, on Saturday I'm going to be doing this thing, and I'll be up in the morning, and I'll come over there at X." No indicator at all before today. But I tell you, a lot of these people think you're just supposed to sit around and have nothing to do and wait for them, hand and foot. And I hate stuff like that. I feel the same way about Amazon when they change the delivery dates when you have a package and they're like, "Oh, it's coming on the 24th. Now it's coming on the 23rd." You're like, "Well, hell, why didn't you tell me?" Because again, some people work during the weekdays, so they might want it to come on the weekends. So they can be there to get it. And a lot of those pricks at that company or whoever is in charge of the delivery dates don't seem to care. They think all of us can just wait hand and foot for a little box to arrive. Oh, it's very annoying, Dio. Oh, I mean, I bought this thermos, and I actually am going to return it because I felt like it was falsely advertised. Where when you get it on the thing, it says something about basically when you go to Amazon's listing for it, it's like, oh, this is for water and for coffee and et cetera, right? Then when you get the actual thing, it has a whole laundry list of stuff you can't put in the box rather. The box indicates there's a whole bunch of stuff you can't put inside of it. It's like, oh, you can't put carbonated drinks and you can't put dairy products. It's like, where was this from? Because again, the issue here is that the actual listing said nothing about this, right? So I get another one that can keep dairy products in there because I like to have some variety. And that was supposed to come today, and then they announced yesterday that it's coming. Or excuse me, they announced 2 days ago that it was coming yesterday. So Amazon loves doing that, where you get something that says oh, it's going to be here in 5 days, then oh, it's actually going to be here in four. They love that. It's one of their favorite tactics. And like I said, they think that that's like helping you, but sometimes if you have Like if you live by yourself, for example, you don't want that thing to just sit in your mailbox all day. So I really wish that these places had a little bit more of a sophistication to them. Really, I don't even like ordering stuff on the online when they can't tell you what, like when you can expect it. Like, oh, you ordered this thing today, will it be here by next week? All right. But then it comes 2 days later, it's just it's not organized. And that's a real problem if you don't have anyone where you are that is there to receive it, or if you have someone who's there that likes to open your mail, as I have had in the past. That's even worse. But that's just because, in my opinion, nobody should be going through anybody's mail. And it's really, I'll never understand how you get a box and it says somebody else's name on it, and then you just instinctively cut it open and like don't even notice that it's not for you until it's too late. Like I don't know how you do that. That's a very bizarre choice to me. But I said before, I live in the twilight zone, so people do a lot of things that don't really make any sense to me. Like instead of telling someone that you're going to come at whatever time, you're just going to announce it to them the morning of, knowing that they stream. This stuff gets tackier by the minute, I swear. No, I played Xenoverse 2 for the first time, I think a month yesterday. Because I haven't even been playing any online games or anything from Steam since probably like November. Yeah, like a whole month basically. By the way, they're doing some worldwide Naruto poll, and you get, the way it works is that you get to vote every day for like whatever character you want. And I was just thinking about how funny it is that all the polls before this one have always been just people in Japan, right? We never knew what people in Brazil or the UK or Canada thought of like what characters they like the most or whatever. So I'm very interested to see what the results of this thing are, because I've been voting in it. Um, but I would not be surprised if everyone's favorite annoying Uchiha didn't even end up getting in the top 10, or if he is, it's like the bottom part of it. That would be great. I'm really happy they're doing a worldwide poll. Just everyone across the world just gets to participate, because they I feel like when you have series that are really popular in other countries and you just limit what we know of what fans think to ones that are in America, you really hurt yourself, as far as you limit your ability to gaze, to grasp like who's the most well liked and things like that. So I'm glad they're doing this. I hope other series do this too. Hey, here's this poll about the most popular characters in this worldwide popular series that you can only vote for if you're in Japan. Not this one. Hmm. So I'm really interested with the result. We're not getting them until I think the start of next month. So on Twitter, you have a bunch of people who really like yeah, Hinata. They're like, oh, go vote for it, go vote for it. And some of the people that are messing with them are like screenshotting them voting for the characters, be like, I just voted. Look who I voted for. Ha 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 ha. People online are so petty. I mean, even if there was some character I didn't want to vote for, I didn't like, I still wouldn't like feel as if I had to announce to other people that I had voted for them. I don't know, it's just a personal preference. I wonder how the least popular who the least popular Naruto character will be. It's gonna be some obscure, male character, because a lot of the female ones, they don't really do anything, but they are physically attractive, so, people will vote for 'em anyway. Like, for example, um, even if she's not featured in it that much, Tamari is actually a very important character, same thing with Tsunade, and then, Hinata, obviously, and I guess to an extent Sakura and Ino, but 1010 literally only exists because Team Guy had to have one girl in it. They couldn't have like Neji and Rock Lee just, as like a two-part thing. So I I know that even a character as useless, as completely lacking of anything memorable like that will do at least halfway decent. I know there's one person they said they're gonna vote for Madara over and 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 over again. Like I said, Madara was a cool villain. I really hate that he wasn't the final antagonist. Got replaced by that floating broad. Because I remember I was having this discussion with somebody where they were like, "Oh, you want Madara to come back in Boruto and do whatever?" It's like, well, I feel like if you're gonna have a continuation series, and you know that a lot of people did not like that final part of the actual series, um, you can do something to redeem the character at least. So I definitely would have gone that direction. But like I said, a lot of people think just because you have a new villain, you're like doing something creative. Um, like we were discussing how Moro is such a derivative antagonist that he might as well have been Cell or someone else, just from all of his powers and the things that he would say, and just like the way the arc was structured. Let's go to Namek again. No, I definitely think the least popular are going to be some male characters. Like the top three popular Akatsuki tend to be Itachi, Pain, and Obito. So they'll probably be the either in the top 10 or the top 20. I'm gonna go with the top 20. Itachi might be in the top 10, but I don't think Pain will be in there. And then you'll start seeing some of the other members probably in the top 40, when you start just kind of factoring in the other stuff as well. Should have stayed a great. Oh, you spelled Moro so wrong. I thought you were saying tomorrow with the T and the O. It's like, I was like, what is he even typing? No, I just thought he was very bland and boring, and a lot of the stuff that like it was just stupid to me. I liked some of the fights in that arc, but the actual main antagonist is one of the most forgettable, just piss poor excuses for a character. I mean, when he like to go out of your way to get the Dragon Balls, right? And then to say after you get them, you bring back all your little minions you haven't come out of their cells. I don't care about my minions. Like, well, then why did you go on the arduous quest of traveling to another planet, defeating multiple very strong people, just to get this wish that frees a bunch of people that you claim you don't care about? Like, it's weird. And then I remember I was excited because he had the minions. I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna have because if you think about it, we haven't really had a major Dragon Ball antagonist with minions, like with underlings since Frieza. So I was like, oh, that's cool because now we can have the other Z fighters fight them, and like they'll get their battle, because a lot of people like to accuse those of us that want someone that's not Goku to do something of wanting somebody else to beat the main villain. But you just want the rest of the cast to have some kind of role in the story, right? Instead, we get um a little bit, like one chapter where it's like all about everybody fighting their respective rival from the opposing team. And by the end of it, they can't even pull out a victory. I mean, you have Moro give Sagambo this big boost of power to where you have Gohan, Piccolo, 18 and 17 being able to beat him. Then you have the stupid lizard guy that Tien, Yamcha, and Shiatsu can't beat. Then you have that big blob woman fusion thing with, up against what was it, both Roshi and Krillin. It's like, how the hell did, like, it's funny, Toyotaro thought he was really cute, making them have to like team up to fight one character, but in actuality, it makes them look even worse because it's like they can't even beat the sub boss. Like it was awful. And then let's not forget the greatest sin, which is you spend 8 or 9 months hyping up Vegeta and his new powers. Oh, he's training on Yardrat, and we've never seen him train with the Master before. And he's gonna have this new technique. All of this hype, month after month, just to have him come to Earth, look cool for like a chapter, and then Moro pulls a new form out of his you know what by swallowing 7-3. It was lame. And I didn't want to talk about Planet Moro, but it was a dragged out arc that was very obnoxious. It had a couple of highlights. I really loved the Moro versus Boo fight, and it's a shame they put him to sleep for the rest of the arc after that. I really like. I think my favorite chapter of all of Super is 52. It's the one where the three siblings come to Earth, and Piccolo spots them, and he just destroys them. And it felt so good to see this character who had been getting trashed on by Super since it started finally get like a little bit, because remember this is before Superhero came out, so just get a little bit of something thrown his way. And I do maintain that out of any arc after the Cell saga, the Moro arc is probably the best one for Piccolo in terms of like screen time and actually contributing to fights. Because he is the most recurring character in that arc, that besides Goku, Vegeta, and Moro. But um, it was just so hard to like really get invested in that stuff because it just dragged on, and it's like the pacing was all over the place. You have one chapter where it's a bunch of fights that are going really quick, then you have this extremely dragged out final part with Moro that's like 5 or 6 chapters, where first you have Ultra Instinct Goku versus Moro, then you have Vegeta versus Moro, then you have them all teaming. I just got tired of it. Just a really long arc that I think in the grand scheme of things will mean nothing to the overall story of Super. Because how many times have you seen somebody mention Moro or Vegeta use that stupid technique since that arc ended? And then you get to the Granola arc, and I mean, I probably would say it has a more consistent story, but it's just more Goku and Vegeta stuff. That's why the last chapter of Super, um, I think it's 88, the one that came out this month, easily my favorite. Because I haven't been reading, I didn't read the Granola arc. I would just read the plot summaries, but it was the first one since the Moro arc ended where I was actually excited to read it because it was different. It was about Goten and Trunks being teenagers and trying to be superheroes and having these secret identities. And um, even if it's focused on two characters that I'm really not that big, because I present Trunks is a a boring version of future Trunks who only exists because there's a future version of him. And Goten is literally just a failed attempt at replacing Goku that went nowhere. So even if it's focused on two characters that I really am not that big a fan of, because we're so starved of content relating to anyone that's not Goku and Vegeta with this modern stuff, I was all for it. So it just felt nice to get something about that was official that wasn't, you know, obsessed with the same two characters. And hopefully this arc will continue. It's supposed to be a prequel to superheroes, so apparently it's going to focus on the I guess the rest of the cast on Earth and their misadventures. Which, like I said, I'm all for because I'm tired of everything being about the same two characters over and over. That's always the biggest problem I had with Super. It's like you introduce all these characters and you keep them alive, and then you really don't do anything with any of them. I mean, like, look at Universe 6. They were in one tournament, they came back with a smaller role in another tournament, um, or arguably the same role, but all the people that came back, like Hit and Kaba, were basically pushed to the side for this new pair of Saiyans. Then they survive. They die in the tournament, but then they get revived, and then nothing. That's why I said, like, to me, it's just so weird to have 40 something page chapters and then always focus on the same two characters over and over. Like, what is the point of having a bigger chapter if it just means we're just getting more of the same old crap? And Super introduced all these gods of destruction. And I swear the only one that we know anything about besides Beerus is his brother. And even then we still really don't know that much about them. And that's why I said, like, why introduce all of these different characters and universes if you're not going to do anything with them? Like, people were talking about the planets. So it's like they Vegeta going to Kaba's home planet. I'm like, I don't see it happening because it's been years. Toyotaro has never indicated the desire to really use. If you look at the stuff he's written, you know, like the Mora arc was apparently his creation. Um, you don't have anyone from Universe 6 or any of the other universes in that. Same thing with the Granola arc, same thing with, you know, this arc so far. I mean, like all those other universes might have just been erased and because they contribute nothing to the story. We haven't seen a single character from any of those outside of Heroes, which is non-canon garbage. So yeah, that last chapter of Super was actually decent. And I was not expecting it. Well, I only expected it because they announced they were gonna do something different, but I was like, okay, whatever. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's just it's so sad that this series has. I remember I've been like listening to some of the stuff people have just not listening but kind of reading it, and I remember I was on this one website where they said that like someone made a video where they were talking about why modern Simpsons is bad, and they said it had too many characters, and I didn't really understand what they were talking about because people say the same thing about Sonic, for example, right? And my retort to that is always, if you've got some series that runs for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I don't know how you have something that goes on for that long and not introduce, again, by virtue of its length, new characters. Like I don't know how you do that. Um, because I can think of a lot of short series that don't have that many characters, but it's like, yeah, they're short. If they were longer, they might eventually start doing that. And I've always said that, like, to give you an example, I look at Young Justice season two, and like one of my main criticisms of it is that it has too many characters because in the first season you had this core cast of six and arguably seven if you count Red Arrow, who received focus, development, attention, screen time, all of it enough to justify you caring about them, right? To know things about them and their struggles and weaknesses and whatnot. It was a very well developed core cast of characters. But even in season one, right, you had all the Justice League members. They might show up and get like one line or just stand in the background. And I was perfectly fine with that because the focus of the show was made abundantly clear that it was on the sidekicks. So if their mentors aren't doing much or have that big of a role, I'm fine with it because the show has characters who it focuses on and characters who it doesn't. When you got to season two and you had the new team, which had like 10 people on it when it started, and then you get like half of the team or most of the team isn't even on the team anymore. So you're seeing that you them barely. I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, how insane is it to take the six, seven characters that you focused on developed and then shove them to the back burner or half them to the back burner for a bunch of new characters that you're barely going to focus on outside of like what two, three of them, Blue Beetle and Arsenal and whatever the other one was. I mean, it to me, it just oh Beast Boy, yeah. But it's like that's what I mean when I say something has too many characters, where it keeps introducing more and more stuff, and it forgets to ever actually develop any of this. Like the actual DC universe has loads of characters, but it doesn't bother me because they have loads and loads of and decades of stories just to develop and spend time on all of them. But a little 20 episode season show does not. And I remember when season three first came out, I was like, you know what? Maybe I was too hard on this show. Maybe season two shakeup was because they felt like, because I said before that Greg Wiseman has some kind of PTSD from like his past shows getting canceled. So I guess that's why he did it. But then when they do season three, what do? They introduce even more characters, um, and split the team into two different teams. And I was just there thinking to myself, like, I really gave them the benefit of the doubt. I said, you know what? If they do season three, they're going to focus on who they already have. They've introduced all the ones they want to use for right now. Okay, cool. Because you can go a whole season without introducing any new characters. That's a fact. Um, like when you have so many, it's not hard to make an episode just with the ones that you already have. Um, but I was thinking to myself, like, it's so sad that you have this series with a whole bunch of characters, right? That started with because it always had a bunch lots of characters, but it had a core focus on six or seven of them that you really cared about, that you understood, that you knew things about. And then it's like when it got to season two, it was just all over the place. This person called me. Give me a second. You guys have to call them back before they get angry at you and you know swear you to damnation and whatnot. But anyways, as I was saying, the thing about Super is that for as bad as I thought it was, and I maintain it's not a good show. At least, and it's got a couple of good episodes. Got like one arc I like, but just in general, it's mostly bad content. The thing about Super is that for as bad of a series as it was, when it was doing its Goku and Vegeta and Vegeta obsession, um, it had a core focus, even if it was boring. That it was the same two characters over and over and over and over again. It still had a core focus, right? And for that reason, I would still say I thought it had a more consistent character develop, even if I don't think they've developed it all. But just you get my point that it had a lot of characters too, but it still knew who it was about. Um, which, like I said, is Dragon Ball mismarkets itself all the time. Like you'll read a promotional teaser and be like, Goku and his friends return. Then you watch the show and it's just him and the same other character doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I get really annoyed from that. See, I hope I've explained how a work can have too many characters. And I don't even, on a subjective level, a story could have 300 or 400 or 500 characters in it. But if it keeps a core focus on the same, like 3, 6, 9, 15, whatever, then it's fine. I just wish people would like actually explain when they have a problem with something. Like when I was talking about Young Justice, I made it very clear. First scene of that show was great. Second, not so much. Third, even worse. The fourth one, I was liking some of it because for as much as I didn't really enjoy, you know, a lot of the like focus being all over the place, at least giving every character their own 2 episode arc made it to where you could still kind of spend some time with them to an extent that you didn't get before. But after it got canceled, it's just like, well, what was the point? This show has been canceled twice now. It's like, so it got canceled back in 2012 or 13, whatever, just to get brought back, what, 6 years later, 5 years later, and get renewed one more time, just get canceled again. Get 2 more seasons just to get canceled. So I guess, well, if it gets renewed again at some point after fans outcry and demand change or whatever, we'll get season 5 and 6, and then it'll get canceled again and then it'll get renewed again for 7 and 8. I'm still just thinking about how crazy it is that we only had one good season of this show. Like you had the first season, and then it just fell off hard. I've never seen that with any other show I've liked, where I really like the first season, and then they do this really stupid thing that just turns me off so much when you get to the next one. Because usually for me to not like a show, it's got to be around for at least a couple of seasons, and I enjoy those, and then it starts to dissipate. But it's the only show I can think of where it had one season I really liked, and then it just fell off like there was no tomorrow. It was just like a runaway train. Just but yeah, I don't even know where people are today. I guess they're spending time with their families. That's why I thought it was so funny that on these different holidays, people just assume every single person, even the ones on the computer, are like out doing these great things with members of their families or people they're related to. But then in actuality, they're just sitting on their computer watching stuff or, doing something else, entertainment related. Oh, man. Yeah, but the DCU really, really suffered its fatal blow. What was it, last week before last? And I said before, sometimes when things are done, they just make no sense to me. And I can't wrap my mind around the logic of let's bring Cavill back for a cameo in this movie that clearly is setting up the idea that he's going to face off against The Rock. Then we're going to announce 2 months later, oh, he's out and we're doing the new Superman. Goodbye. It's weird. So people like that's why I said I'm very sympathetic toward those restore the Snyderverse people. Um, because to sit here and get something like have something presented to you is like, oh, this is now gonna happen, Man Steel 2. and then it's just pulled away so quickly after you get your first little hint of hope. I think is screwed up. And there was a guy who said that these people sound like they're more Snyder fans than DC fans. Like, well, some people are just tired of reboots. Like, they're tired of starting over and over and over again. I know that when just to give you an example, when the first when TASM came out, I watched it in theaters. Then when TASM 2 came out and everybody said it was trash, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna wait until this comes out on DVD. Then when the first MCU film, what was that, Homecoming, when that came out, I was like, another reboot. Then when Far From Home was like, yeah, whatever. So uh I got sick of reboots too. Like, when you keep having to start over and begin again, it just gets so redundant. That's why I didn't even see the Batman in theaters. It was like, okay, people can say it's good. I'm not disputing that, but I'm not gonna rush out to see, what is this, the third Batman in 10 years. I'll wait until it comes out on HBO Max. Like I said, if we didn't have any films with that character since like Batman and Robin, for example, I probably would have been way more excited. But so you have the Nolan trilogy, you have BVS, you have Justice League because he's in that too. And the first Suicides. It's like I'm kind of Batmaned out. Sorry. Especially when I have to keep reminding myself, oh, this version is not that version, which is not that version. It's like, because again, you just keep starting over. But yeah, I totally understand their outrage because I'm sick of reboots. I'm sick of having to redo everything. Like, he had one movie, then he had I don't know what you would call it, a dual starring role with Affleck, then an ensemble film. So the focus on him decreases with each appearance. It's like, well, I can't really watch that and feel satisfied that, oh yeah, I'm fine never seeing this iteration of the character again. I really wish we could have had Man of Steel 2, and the ideas that they had for it sound really interesting. And I hate that we're apparently never going to see it. Where they're talking about Brainiac and Supergirl and the Phantom Zone, like, because that's all stuff that was set up by the first movie. So Snyder clearly had a vision. Um, and it's one that I wish we had been able to actually get instead of, what we're apparently going to get. So I don't know. The whole thing is just goofy to me. People are like, this is great. They need to start over. They don't know what they were doing. It's like, well, why throw away all of these actors that people like the casting of, that they clearly like the performances of, and not just give them better material? Like, it would have been really exciting to get a Man of Steel 2 and 3, or at least the second one. And it's more uplifting. He's now experienced as as a hero protagonist, whatever you want to call it. And he's got this like alien, this being in Brainiac that comes from his home world that seems to kind of want to restore Krypton, but wants to do it in a way that's different from Zod, right? Um, and he finds out gradually that Brainiac wants to destroy Earth. Like, just comes to each planet, just destroy it as well. So there's like a sense of betrayal there. But like I said, I just wish that people were more, open to stuff. That's why I said to a lot of people, when they imagine reboots, they just instantly think it's going to be this great, amazing film, and I don't, because it's like you have to get a different director, you have to get another to start again. Like, they just think if you just start from scratch, you're automatically getting something better, and I don't buy it. Oh my God, we're getting a Superman movie that's about him when he was younger, because we've never seen that before. I mean, what's a Smallville? It's funny how it seems like every year we get a Spider-Man movie. Like, not even as I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, if you really think about it, it's been almost every year um, over the last like 5 or 6 years, and every year we do get some kind of Batman related thing, whether it's a live action movie or a cartoon one or something like that, right? But with Superman, it's like it's so interesting to have such an iconic, easily the archetype of all superheroes character who just can't seem to catch a break. I mean, you get four, which is despised by everybody, right? Then you get returns, which higher reception, but it's not exactly considered some great, amazing movie. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I'm not going to speak to its quality. But there was apparently a sequel for that planned. Then it got thrown out along with the actual actor who played him in that film. Was that Brandon Ralph? How do you say his name? Then you get a new movie, and this is like 7 years later. Returns came out in like 2006. Man Still is like 2013. And it looks like this movie's going to be the start of a new universe. It's going to be to DC what Iron Man was to Marvel, right? And instead of getting a follow up to that movie, a Man of Steel 2, you get this weird team up film with him and Batman. Then you kill the character off after two appearances. Then you bring him back in Justice League, which is not well liked when it came out, a year later. And then after he's benched outside of doing some reshoots for Justice League when the director's cut comes out, 3 4 years later, he gets a little cameo in a few movies or in a few programs. I know he's in Peacemaker and Shazam, all the rest of the stuff, but it's not really Cavill playing him. It's supposed to be represent the same character. Then he actually gets to show his face with a new cameo in Black Adam, just to get fired and thrown in the trash 2 months later when the new cronies in charge decide they want to start for everything all over. So yeah, I think he was done dirty. I don't like that they're beginning again. And like I said, I have no desire to see another reboots. Like this is the this if if they make this film, it'll be the third solo Superman movie in a row with a different actor playing this character, and I'm sick of it. So they're not getting me to watch that. Sorry. Dude, imagine how screwed up it would be if right after they do the Batman 2, they're like, goodbye, Matt Reeves, goodbye, Robert Pattinson. We're gonna do a new Batman, but it's gonna be set when he was a kid. It's like, what? So they cast this actor and laid out all these big plans. They'll never come to fruition. People would rightfully be upset. They'd be like, hey, we got invested in this new version of the character and how it is to see the story unfold, and then you just can him right out. That's why I said it's so tacky. And for as much as people have their problem with the way the Marvel stuff is going, I'm glad they actually are kind of sticking to their feet with their own continuity. They're not ashamed to be like, you know what, this is our universe. We've had some stuff people have not liked, but we're still kicking it because DC doesn't know what they're doing. They're just like they're literally throwing darts at a wall and trying to see what sticks. God, what a garbage film company. Dude, they told us that Wonder Woman 3 was in development. They said it was going to start filming next year. Then all of a sudden, I hear like 2 or 3 weeks ago it's been canceled. I'm like, what? And this is a movie that when it was announced, they said it was being fast tracked. Um, they were talking about getting Linda Carter to come in, the original '70s Wonder Woman, to come in and play some other role. So that's why I said it just seems like a bunch of stuff is happening, and they don't really know what they're doing anymore. They're just kind of throwing darts everywhere. Dude, my favorite thing was when they were talking about Gal Gadot's acting, and they were like, "She is a horrible actress. She is bad." And I'm like, guys, let's be honest. If you're playing Wonder Woman, there's only two requirements to get that role. You have to be able to look pretty, very attractive, right? And you also have to be able to emote to some basic extent. So, let's quit acting like this is some highly complicated, complex character because really she's not. But I was just like laughing. I was like, okay, well, if you have a problem with her, I don't know who you think this new magic person is going to be that's so great and amazing. Dude, one of my favorite things people would say was when Wonder Woman 3 got announced, they're like, "Where's Man of Steel 2? How can Wonder Woman have 3 movies and Superman can't even get 2?" It's like, but they have nothing to do with each other. They act like Patty Jenkins is like was in charge of who gets a film and who does. Like it's weird. Or one of my favorite articles from discussing film on Twitter was where they had an interview with Ryan Coogler, and he said that he was down to make more Black Panther movies as long as Marvel wanted him to. And in the comment section, you had people who were like, "I don't want you to do another one. You didn't recast T'Challa." And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, isn't it crazy that he does the first movie, and like I didn't think it was as good as people said it was, but I thought it was okay, right? And then he gets hit with this horrible circumstance of his lead actor unexpectedly passing away and has to rewrite damn near the whole thing. But he's able to pull out a film that seems to be well liked, certainly is financially successful. It's made about almost 800 million. But he is able to salvage the situation, that very difficult scenario that he's been put in. And the same people who were cheering him on when he did his first film turn on him because he doesn't want to, which, as far as I can tell, wasn't even like a decision made by him. It was said that Marvel had decided not to recast. So it's just that's why I said that. Like, what did our well, I'm not going to invoke his name, but you can be well liked and just hated within seconds. It's crazy. People will turn on you so fast over anything. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, that's really what they did to him. He sat there and he tried his best to make a movie that, again, bad situation all around, but he tried his best. And they're not even judging the movie on its quality. They're complaining that a character who was played by an actor who unfortunately passed away was not recast to such an extent that they're being like nasty toward the director and tell him that he ruined black heroes and all this other crazy stuff. And I just said that this is this is part of the reason why, besides Discord, Twitter is the worst website. Any crazy person come on there and write something weird and be nasty. But it was just a bizarre thing to write to somebody. Yeah, it's been a really weird last couple of weeks. People turning on each other and switching sides, and you know all kind of stuff is happening. I don't know. The worst part for me is that you have all of these like fans of stuff, and they are so quick. I guess maybe what it is that I didn't like. I was on the internet when I was a kid, but I wasn't in any of these like message forums and places where people would really like write and talk about what they liked and didn't like. But it just seems so weird to me that the people who will spend the most time trashing their own stuff are the people who say they like it. Um, and I'm seeing it in more and more communities now where it's almost like this. I'm not saying you have to always praise stuff you like, but I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of disdain for stuff that people claim they enjoy, and I can't quite wrap my head around it. I don't like the last season of this show. So I said the internet's just a weird place. It has so many just bizarre characters that appear and manifest. This guy said that he hopes Supergirl shows up in Young Justice season 5. I was like, I don't even know why. So she can have like what one episode where she gets a few lines and just a bunch of cameos for the rest of the season. Like that show thinks it has 50 or 70 episode seasons. That's why it feels like it can just introduce loads and loads of characters just over and over. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it. I guess Dio left. He decided he was getting bored. He wasn't sufficiently entertained, or he went to go reread the moral arc for the 13th time. I haven't read through that full thing since it ended. It's just too long and boring for me. Has a lot of ideas I really like, um, but it's got a villain who's very derivative, and there's not really a satisfying payoff in that story, which is why I said the Vegeta thing was so unforgivable. That you spend all this time focusing on this new technique he's getting just to have him get curb stomped after the villain pulls a new transformation out of their behind. Because I was explaining before that when you have a character who you set up to for us to believe they're going to come and defeat the main villain and whatnot and save the day, when you then subvert it in a way that is like rude or not given any type of foreshadowing, it's very obnoxious, and it really makes me question what was the point of all of this training. Just even example like of it being done tastefully. So Goku not being able to beat Vegeta by himself in the Saiyan saga was actually surprising when it happened because he was always able to beat the villain by himself before. But it didn't feel like his training was for nothing because he was able to take out Nappa very easily. And the spirit ball, which is the technique that you learned with King Kai, was used by Krillin to blast Vegeta away, or rather, it was used by him and Gohan to blast him away. So the point I'm making here is that in that scenario where expectations were subverted, it was surprising because every previous time it had been Goku winning by himself or winning, mostly by himself, and it was done in a way where there were actual things that still mattered that came from his training. Also, I just the literary irony of him coming to save Gohan and Krillin from the Saiyans, and then them having to come and save him when he can't. It's great. It's totally better than that nonsense we had in Super. But yeah, Vegeta losing wasn't surprising because of all the setup. It was annoying because how many times it's happened before, and even worse because of all the focus that they gave on this training of his that still couldn't pull off the the job. And you could say, oh well, he still used this technique as part of a group effort. It's like, yeah, but it's after they get defeated by the villain over and over, and it still is not done in the way that they conveyed to us. So it was just tacky. Yeah, we can't even get started on the Boo saga. It was always funny that people don't understand why I say that's the worst arc of Z. It's like, first of all, it's really long, 96 episodes, but like 95 chapters in the manga. Secondly, unlike every other arc of the series, with the possible exception, no, I'm gonna say this out of it, like, it's probably the one arc in the entire original manga that doesn't have a consistent villain. Like, you start off with Babidi and Deborah, then you get Babidi and Boo, then you get Boo by himself, then you get Boo by himself, but it's another form of version of him, or another, it's not the same character. Then you get another like it just too many damn switch ups, and I got really sick of it by the end of it. Where you have must be four different main villains by the time that thing is over, and you really didn't have that with any other part of this series leading up to it. Um, then you have Vegeta end his own life for nothing. So he's written out of the arc from for a good chunk of it. Um, you have a final battle that doesn't even involve most of the cast. It's like this is the last fight, or it's supposed to be the last fight of the entire series, the entire original manga. It's the final battle, and you're never going to see these characters again. And all most of them do is sit on another planet while Goku and Vegeta get slapped around and stick their hands up. I just thought it was lame. So yeah, it was a it's an arc that I still would say I like, because I do like the things with Vegeta and Hercule with their character development, but it is at that point where the series truly becomes the Saiyan show, where you have all of these forms and various techniques that go nowhere. Um it's hard to really enjoy it. Because I remember, I read this article, and it was talking about the most like wasted or misused Dragon Ball characters. Would go on as number one. It came out like 8 years ago. And by the way, they had Vegeta on there, which I didn't agree with at all. I said he gets more consistent focus than arguably any character in Z that's not Goku or Gohan. Um, so I laughed. They were like, their reasoning was because he doesn't kill a main villain. It was weird. But anyways, um, they had a section on 18, and they were talking about how she's probably the like most popular female in the whole series besides Bulma, and that when you get to the Boo saga, it's so jarring that while she's infinitely stronger than almost every character that's not a Saiyan, even some of them, ironically enough, they never have her fight Boo, which is made more bizarre when you consider how powerful she is. And I was thinking about, I said, no attention is really paid to this, but we know for a fact that she's strong before Gotenk shows up, that she's stronger than Goten and Trunks individually, because she's able to fight them at that tournament. Um, we know that Vegeta is stronger than her. Gohan is kind of dupe. Like I'll say he is, just because he's a Saiyan and he's like he's got his plot armor when it comes to like not training. But when you really think about it, she's either in the top three, like either top four or top three strongest characters alive when that arc starts. They're like on Earth. I was like, that's so jarring to have a character that's that powerful and she has nothing. Like you, she, her whole role in that arc is being at the tournament and trying to get money out of Hercule, and then getting killed off screen. Because in the show they have the Boo turning people into chocolate, but in the manga it's Goten and Piccolo, Gotenks and Piccolo rather, get out of the time chamber, and then they find out that Boo is eating everybody while they were, stuck in there. So it just really like pisses me off that you have such a powerful character that they just kind of sideline for the whole thing. Really for no reason other than, her gender, but shh, be very, very quiet. No, that was one thing that article pointed out, and it really recontextualized how I viewed the that arc. God, like, it's like Toriyama had her like she's the only android that doesn't die in the Cell Saga, which means he clearly had some kind of like other plan for her. But then all he did with her after that was just have her be in this stupid tournament and sell on the lookout until getting killed off screen. I don't know, it just feels like anticlimactic the more I think about it. Like the more thought you put into it. No, the only problem I have with Bulma is that her little romance with Vegeta comes out of nowhere and only exists because Toriyama barely had any female characters in his story and needed one of them to get with the only Saiyan besides Goku in the story that was full blooded to have a kid with. That was my only issue with her. That romance came out of nowhere. It only exists for a plot device. It is really goofy. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more jarring it is that like you have all these different forms of Boo. I think that arc has like the most individual antagonist of any arc besides maybe Frieza. So you have all the minions that Babidi has on his ship. That's like there's like three of them, and then Deborah, and again the three forms of Boo. Technically four if you count that evil one that absorbed Fat Boo to become Super Boo. It's like you don't have her fight any of those. It's just weird to me. You take your fourth or fifth strongest character, and all she does is just sit around like one of the, you know, outclassed other ones that is on the lookout and then just get killed off screen. No, it's just a bizarre choice to me. That's why I said the Boo Saga is really where you can just tell Toriyama's like, I don't even care anymore. Like, let's just kill off everybody. Let's have the villain blow up the planet. Let's have like all kind of weird stuff is going on. And it's really the first arc that doesn't have any organic storytelling. Like the Saiyan Saga has like answers why Goku has the tail. The Frieza one is triggered by all the deaths that happened in the Saiyan Saga. And the Cell Saga comes from the Red Ribbon Army, which I mean that's going back even further. And then Boo just kind of comes out of nowhere. And the only plot threads that really were there before are just like individual character stuff, like with Vegeta. But outside of that, it really is just kind of like the like the postscript season where it's just out like this stuff they just developed out of the blue. It's like there was this ancient evil that's been around for for millions of years, and no one ever heard about it until this arc, but it's been around for millions of years. It's like, what in the world? I remember I was having this conversation with this guy. I said, there are people who try to tell you that because I was in this one Discord thread where people were saying that they agreed that Naruto was better than Dragon Ball, which I don't agree with at all. I think part one of Naruto is really good, and part two just falls and peaks over and over, and has way too many characters. But what was interesting to me is that I was actually like saying with them, if you really think about it, Naruto makes a lot more sense to have live action or have some kind of movie series, like cinematic universe with than Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball's story is so much simpler than Naruto's. Like you don't really have that many posthumous characters. Like, like we don't really know that much about what was going on before Goku because it's not important. We know he killed his grandpa as an ape, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, you have the stuff with King Piccolo, but that's still only like one thing with him and Master Roshi's master. So with Naruto, you could easily have whole movies where, oh look, it's Team Guy. They're going to this village, or they have to fight this person in this village. They have to travel over here. Because the fights are usually of lower stakes and they have those different teams. Um, you can argue that makes it to where there's more content you can divulge from that series in a movie format than you could with Dragon Ball, where everything is centered around Goku. I just thought that was interesting, like just thinking about it that way. Naruto's story is so convoluted. You need like 10 mangas to 10 different manga series to tell the whole thing. You need your first Hokage manga, you need your second Hokage manga, you need your third Hokage manga, you need your fourth Hokage manga. I mean, hell, you need a manga to show what they were doing in those 2 years between part one and part two, or one that shows that gap between the end of part two to the start of Boruto. But no, we have to keep going forward. I swear, part two of Naruto just gets so confusing for me sometimes. Like the fourth Shinobi War. Oh, what happened during the last three? And then you get into like all the like there are so many segments of that series where it's some character that's deceased, and like they're long dead. Like we as the reader didn't even know them, but because Kishimoto likes them, we have to read about them for a chapter, two chapters, three chapters. I'm just like, man, I don't care. Like I that's why I said that a lot of times reading that series is like a slog for me. Um, because it has so much focus on all of these deceased characters that a lot of the living ones they don't really even bother with that much. So you can have your series. You won't see me complaining. Well, I'm not talking about the filler of the show. I'm talking about the manga. I didn't watch Shippuden outside of a few episodes because it was just too long for me. 500. Mm. No, the only filler I watched was some of the stuff that was in part one. But that was because that came out when I was a kid, and I didn't even know that like what that was. That you had 2 or 3 whole years of just filler. Dude, that arc starts with this really cool villain that they've been foreshadowing and building up since part one, and then he gets like I guess so invincible that Kishimoto can't figure out how to actually have the heroes defeat him. So he gets backstabbed by the guy that he's fused with and replaced by this floating bro that nobody ever heard of. That's what I said. I just when Red Eyes black hair dragon shows up, I just lost structure. Well, that's why I said Naruto is just an irritating series for me because it has a lot of stuff I like in it, but the stuff I like is usually shoved to the back burner for stuff I don't care about or just outright don't like. I mean, look at Boruto. You make this series, and it's a spin-off about Naruto's son, right? And you have it to where he wants to not be Hokage like his. I was like, okay, contrasting sequel protagonists, whatever you want to tell a different story. But then what do? You give all of the Konoha 11, or at least most of them, children who are literally clones of their parents. So what I initially thought would happen was you'd have the core team of, Boruto and his two buddies or whatever, and then like one other team that you'd focus on. But you had these six new characters, then you have the rest of the cast from the previous series coming back. So it still is mostly ones you're familiar with. They just started creating a whole bunch of children. And I'm like, well, hell, now I know that they're definitely not going to develop anyone from part one or part two, except for Sasuke, because we can never get rid of him. He has to stay at the center of the story forever. Dude, Boruto's literal mother isn't even in like a third of that damn manga. Poor Hinata, like for such a popular character, I really can't think of anything worthwhile that's ever been done with her. It's so sad. Even when she's the mom of the main character, she can't even get more than the appearance, more than like maybe one appearance every year or 18 months. Damn, that is crazy to me that like she's like someone on Reddit went and counted the number of chapters each character is in a Boruto. She's in like a fifth of that series. It's crazy. I was like, what the? So whether she's the main character's like friend slash one-sided love interest or even the main character's mother, she still just barely has any role in the story. God, it's just so weird to me. Why are there people at my door? Let me see. Um, Boruto and DBS are sorry garbage fan fictions full of filler. Yeah, I don't really like either one of them. I'll be right back. Man, let's get back to this. So the only thing that Super has over Boruto for me is that at least it's what's the word for it? At least there's a chance I'll see some like older character do something that I like. But with Boruto, it's just like a bunch of the new characters I don't find interesting. And it just seems like very bizarre to me to take Naruto and Sasuke, who are the two most important, whether you like it or not, and especially I didn't like it with Sasuke, but are the two most important characters of the original manga, and keep them in some important role while diminishing that of the other characters who already were secondary to them, and then propping up a bunch of new ones who are just clones of older ones. So it's just not something I'm really that interested in reading or watching. And you could say that there's filler and the filler gives the, but it's like, why do I have to sit, like, I'm in a 300 episode show. I'm sure you have an episode about Naruto's mailman, but in the manga, which apparently are the like key events, the characters from the previous series that aren't Naruto or Sasuke don't do jack. That's why I brought up Hinata. I said she is the literal parent of the main character of the series, and she's only in like a sixth of its chapters. Like she's barely in the damn thing, and it's like that doesn't make any sense to me. Most anime slash manga don't put together decent endings, but they will get you deeply invested in the characters and plot. Well, I'm not invested in the plot of Boruto, and I especially am not interested in the plot of Super. Super had one decent chapter this month because it did something different. And I hope it will continue doing that. If it does that, I'll keep reading it because I took a hiatus from it. I said I'm not reading the granola stuff. Um, and I read one chapter of Boruto where it was like Shikamaru was trying to tell Boruto about some girl that can, I guess, hear people's conversations. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, if you have a villain who can hear what people are thinking or what people are saying, rather, excuse me, why wouldn't you just write down what you want to say to him on a piece of paper? So I said it's weird. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I probably will just, I guess, keep on holding out hope that someday Boruto actually is not what it is now. Um again, I don't get the point of making all of these new characters and then like they add them to the new cast, and the new cast is like boring and doesn't do anything interesting ever. Like I'm just kind of like burned out of these series at this point. They're they're grifting you by foreshadowing a major battle with completely random fighting techniques with burrito and a random. Yeah, I'm saying that I don't feel satisfied with the way this stuff is going. Like, but that's how I felt when I watched part one the first time. I was like, oh my god, part two is going to be this big showdown between Naruto and Orochimaru, and there's this shadow organization and Team Seven and the Konoha 11 are all going to have to fight them together. And then during part two, we really didn't get that. We had some Akatsuki fights where I'm not even joking. Like it's not like out of the Konoha 11, you get maybe like what 4, 5 of them to actually get to fight the Akatsuki. 6 of them. Um, again, outside of Pain when he came and invaded, but that's different because that's everybody versus him. And then Orochimaru gets shoved to the back burner for a character that we thought was deceased, but not really, who pretends to be another character who shows up late. So all I'm getting at is it's hard for me to get excited with a lot of this stuff because I've seen the foreshadowing kind of just flip itself, and it's not done in ways that I'm really satisfied with. Oh yeah, the designs for Super are lazy. I'm not disagreeing with that. But bringing Frieza back could have been cool. It just wasn't really done that well. Um, I was more interested in him with the Tournament of Power because it was cool having like an evil teammate. But after that, I'm just kind of sick of him because he just shows up in everything now. We can get Frieza for 10 arcs, but we can't get Cell for 2. That makes sense. And I already discussed how stupid the Future Trunks arc was. It's like hey, let's have this Goku lookalike terrorize Trunks' timeline, and then we'll have him sit in this barren wasteland timeline instead of threatening the main one, so we don't care because we know that they can just bring Trunks and the people that he loves back to the main one and leave that garbage timeline in the past. There is no blue Trunks. They recolored his hair, but they didn't give him a new. Well, they gave him Super Saiyan 2 and whatever that other ascended thing is with the little blue pieces in it, but it's not the same. Well, that's why I said Super ruined Future Trunks' ending. In the original manga, you get to watch him get stronger in the main timeline. Yeah, he dies because Cell blasts him, but he comes right back, and then he gets to kill the very androids that have been terrorizing the Earth for 20 years. Um, it's very cathartic. It's very it, it's rewarding seeing this character actually earn his happy ending. And then Super's like, well, we decided your timeline can't have enough terrorism. So here comes this random threat out of nowhere that is in yours, but not the other one for some reason. And then when it looks like he's going to save his timeline by cutting Zamasu in half, you get this weird cloud version of Zamasu, and then Zeno just says, "Forget the whole thing." And just it was awful. That whole arc needs to just get retconned or deleted or started over. That it was bad. You had maybe like 5 good episodes and a really awful conclusion. That arc has the worst, and I maintain this. Out of any arc of Dragon Ball between the original, Z, GT, Super, AF, it's like out of any of them, that arc has the worst ending out of all of them. Bittersweet for no damn reason. Um, Completely overrides the original happy ending that Trunks had. It was bad. The entire concept of Xenos is truly in song for everything the Z Fighters have been through. Well, I'm talking about Super. I'm talking about in that series that decided to override the good ending that Trunks had. And like I said, if they wanted to bring Trunks back, they could have just had him come to the. They have some villain that was messing with him in the past. They come to the present, and then he's like, all right, well, we're gonna get rid of this guy over here now because he doesn't want to come back. He knows my timeline doesn't even have that many people to fight. So it was really bad. I don't know what they were thinking. Let's bring future Trunks back and ruin his happy ending from Z. I remember people used to, when I was a kid, people would like speculate, like, do you think in Trunks' timeline, Boo showed up and just destroyed everybody? It's like it doesn't make any sense. Why would Boo show up later if the Boo arc is set before the future timeline? Or how I explain it? If Trunks is a kid when Boo shows up, why would he then in this other timeline wait to only show up after he's an adult and has killed the androids when there's barely any power on Earth from fighters to get anyway because all the Z fighters are it was goofy. I'm surprised they didn't use the that arc as an excuse to bring back like Super Boo and Kid Boo. Why would Beerus sleep through Cell destroying the universe if he knows he needs 12 fighters for a term of the power? Oh, because Beerus didn't exist when the original manga was written. It's just a stupid retcon. But they retcon stuff all the time. They said that Super Saiyan God was like 50% of Beerus was using 50% of his power to fight Goku while he was in that form. So you would think Blue, which is an even bigger multiplier, would make him stronger than Beerus, but apparently not. We don't know what he was planning. I'm just imagining they have the terminal power in Trunks' timeline and it's him and or like they have it before he kills the android, so he's not there. So it's like 17 and 18 and Poir and Oolong and Roshi. No, that timeline is awful. There's a whole bunch of little weird stuff in that series, like 16 getting his head stomped and it making Gohan turn Super Saiyan 2, and then he never gets mentioned ever again in the whole series. Like no mentions throughout the Buu saga of him by either Gohan or 18, who you would think would be the main ones to speak about him. Um, but no mention of him there, like just nothing. Yeah, Future Trunks was cool. I didn't. I mean, I don't dispute that. I just wish that he had been used in a better way if they wanted to bring him back. Uh, I mean, it's like think about this: the first time you see Future Trunks in Z, he shows up, becomes only the second character to ever be Super Saiyan, and just destroys Frieza and his dad and all of their goons. It's really cool. The first time you see Future Trunks in Super is him running from Goku Black. He didn't do one cool thing throughout that whole arc. Besides the stupid spirit sword, which was so goofy, I couldn't even believe what I was watching. I don't know. I just don't like the way that arc ended up going. Like merge Zamasu and Goku Black apparently being stronger than Zamasu, but then still like being buddies with himself. It was just weird. So yeah, I was not a big fan of what we got. I don't know. I feel that way about a lot of this stuff. They just kind of don't know what they're doing, and they have this IP, and they start throwing like stuff, like throwing whatever at a wall to see what sticks. And it drove me crazy that like again going back to 18 because I felt tempted to do this. It's like you have her interact with Future Trunks for one scene, and she doesn't find out that that same timeline her future self destroyed uh is now being attacked by some other antagonists. Like I don't know, it just seems I feel like if there was someone who I knew I had a version of myself that I had been evil toward and like ruined the life of, and they're back in my timeline to get away from some new threat, I would at least be kind of curious as to what the hell's going on. So I said in Super, there's a lot of little character stuff that's not there that I don't quite understand its absence. Like look at 17. He comes back for the first time since the Cell Saga, and we find out he's been married, park ranger. We don't get to see his wife. We don't get to see his kids. Nothing. Not even for an episode. We don't know how he went from being weaker than first form Cell to being able to fight Jiren and Super Saiyan 3 Goku and like I didn't understand it at all. But that's why I said Super is not a good show because in an actual decent series, they could have done some flashback episodes, right? Showed us how he like demonstrated how he became stronger out of nowhere. They could have introduced him earlier in the series by having him train with Beerus. I mean, it's so weird to me that like you have this character that you give this big, massive, huge, gaping power up to, right? and then you don't even really develop him in any way to where that power would actually be something that makes sense. So the only it's so funny how 17 is the one character that debuted in Z that undoubtedly Super made more popular, because back when I was a kid, the only android anybody cared about besides Cell was 18. Like no one brought up Jaro or anything. It's like, so they made 17 more popular without even like just basically just from giving him a power up. They didn't give him some kind of like really great character arc that feels fully complete, and we've seen what he's been through. Just it was really weird to me that like you would bring this character back and give him all this screen time and then not even show us his wife or his kids that he's had since the last time we saw him. It's I don't know, it was just weird to me. Hell, you have him fight with Frieza, and he doesn't even mention that Frieza killed him off screen when he blew up Earth in Resurrection F. People are so weird. I already said before, the Tournament of Power ending probably would have been better if it was 18 in Frieza, where it's like she has to work with the man that not only killed her husband before they even met, but also killed her when he blew up the Earth, and like it's this like thing of trying to like I'm talking about, like that real that would have been a much more personal, uneasy alliance. But you know damn well that Dragon Ball fans with their very traditionalist ways would get very upset if a woman won the tournament. This is SJW. I already can see it. Dude, they would have been losing their minds. They would have like, oh, that I don't even want to imagine it. Dragon Ball is woke. I'm so glad the Cell Saga came out back in the 80s, or I guess, well, I should actually rather, excuse me, the early 90s, 91, 90, as opposed to now, because if it had came out, if that chapter of 18 breaking Vegeta's arm had come out this year, they would have been like, Dragon Ball has gone for SJW. Dude, it would have been the end of the world. They would like, this classic manga has because that has been running for 8 or 9 years has destroyed itself by having a woman defeats the principles. I'm so glad that came out back then instead of now with all the outrage culture. Dude, you'd be seeing thumbnails of like Vegeta's broken arm with from 18's like kick all plastered across this site. Oh, thank God that was before the people were able to monetize outrage on the internet. They would have milked that thing like there was no tomorrow. No, I've had a lot of issues with Dragon Ball fans because like the problem I have with them is they get caught up on these transformations and power levels. And I said, listen, if Toriyama tomorrow or Toyotaro decided Tien is the strongest character and he's got all these techniques you've never heard of, then he would be the strongest character and have all the techniques you never heard of without any forms. And we know that because look at what they did to 17. This was a guy that was completely outclassed by first form Cell. And now he's stronger than Boo. He's stronger than like he's stronger than damn near any of the antagonists that have come since uh Cell to up to Black, probably. And he's not stronger because the story did a good job explaining where he got this big boost of power. No, he's stronger because the writers decided he would be. Just like it was the writers who decided the Saiyans would have Zenkai boost, and it's the writers who decided to give Piccolo two new forms in the movie. And that's why I said when they start crunching power levels and talking about this person's not strong enough to do this, it's like, according to what? Because like I said, if Toriyama wanted to, he could have made Vegeta as Majin Vegeta just blow up Boo, and that's the whole end of that. That's the end of Boo. That's it. Boo's deceased. No bubble gum here. That actually have been kind of cool if like Vegeta did kill Fat Boo, and then it's only when Fat Boo is with Goku in like other world that he like the two train together and Goku unlocks Super Saiyan 3. Like the form is literally the manifestation of their friendship instead of this random form that came out of nowhere. That's why a lot of people love Broly. They only see power, not real characters, which is a true shame. Because like I said, 18, if she was actually given the screen time that any of these characters, like any of the major characters got for a solid arc, like if you had the Boo saga the same exact way, except you have her like let's say fight Fat Boo, Super Boo, and then maybe you get some flashbacks of like what it was like to get kidnapped by Jiro and turned into this machine against her will. She could easily be one of the best characters in the whole series. That's why I said that like when you don't give a character that much to do, it is in spite of that they become popular as opposed to because of something you did. Because Super is not the reason that Goku or Vegeta are popular. No, they were popular from the original manga, Z, whatever. Same thing with Piccolo, same thing with Gohan, same thing with Krillin, same thing with Trunks. I mean, it's Super. The only character that Super indisputably made more popular that it didn't create was 17. And that's only because it gave him this big jerk off power boost out of the blue. But no, they don't see real characters at all. They see a bunch of numbers on a screen, and that's how they roll. It's a real shame. And a lot of characters people like, I just have nothing for. Like I cared nothing about Broly. He was just whatever to me. The new one I think has more character to him, but he still is like whatever. Because I just got tired of Saiyans. I feel the same way about Vegito and Gogeta. It's like all these fusions that do nothing except waste everybody's time. I just like there's a whole bunch of stuff in that series that people really liked. I'm just kind of like whatever to. Oh my god, this person has God Key. They're gonna go Super Saiyan Blue. It's like I don't care. That Super Saiyan recolor. Just because people didn't want to say Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, even though that's exactly what that form is. It's going Super Saiyan while in God form. SSGSS. No, it's just it's hard to be a fan of this stuff sometimes because of not even just the series itself, like basically phasing you out because it's not interesting to you anymore. But then like the way the fans act too, where you try to have a discussion with them about a good story, and I start hearing about power levels and this person's not strong enough, and is this form going to be enough? And it's like, who guys, like whatever you want to be strong can be strong. If you want to put an explanation for how they became so much more powerful, you can do that as well, whatever. But it's like, damn, like it's so weird to have people like talking about fiction with not even like with logic of um something related to the story, but just like trying to crunch numbers like we're in some math or economics class. It's weird. Does the multiplier of this form equate to like all that power level stuff? I don't even watch it when people make videos on it. It's like for what? This person is not strong enough to do this according to what writer? But yeah, that is why a lot of people love Broly. I mean, I like Janemba, but I'll freely admit he's a nothing character. He's got a really cool design for his super form or whatever, that red and purple. some good powers, and whatever the like splitting and teleporting thing. But as far as an actual substantive character who's like got an interesting personality, he fails on almost every level. And I don't have a problem admitting that. I mean, it's the truth. He's a nothing character. He's got a good design. I'm sure if they wanted to, they could bring him in some arc of Super and give him a personality. But as it stands in Fusion Reborn, he is just the villain that is there to be an obstacle to Goku and Vegeta. I like the design of Kid Buu, but I'd say the same thing. Nothing character. I don't know, man. It's just I just feel like there's a lot of stuff that series could be that it isn't, and people just don't want to. What's a good way of putting it? They don't want to. I want to call it say face the music, but they don't like to criticize stuff that they like, and I understand that to some point. But like I always say, if I like something, I like this part. If I didn't like that part, whatever. But you can still like something overall and not like parts of it. Oh, that's why I saw on the internet people have a lot of blind devotion to stuff where they feel like if you don't enjoy the entirety of something, you must hate it. It's weird. But yeah, it's been a I don't know. I just I always find discussing fiction so interesting because when you look at something in hindsight, there are certain ways you could have preferred the story to go. Because what's supposed to happen with a lot of these different series is that when they do a story or some kind of arc or season, whatever, they're supposed to have a person that they run the general plot by, and then that person approves it, their editor or some other person in charge of them, and then they go off of that person's approval. So it's interesting to take something and be like, hey, they could have done this, they could have done, like using what we know about what things they had access to. Man, when I was doing my Boo Saga rewrite, I had 18 and Gohan versus Deborah. And it was like they were both getting revenge for Krillin and Piccolo getting turned to stone. And it's the two of them destroying him that's what gets, uh the other, like those two, out of their predicament. Because I thought that was sort of like they have her husband get turned to stone, and she just has no idea that even happened. Like what? I'm telling you, a lot of that character stuff gets weird. Just so many missed opportunities for any developments. God, it's weird too because I remember, in the when we start with the King Piccolo arc, and Goku senses that Krillin's in danger, and he like runs to him. It's like you would think 18 would sense that her husband is in danger when he's getting turned to stone, but I guess not. That's not even like a power level thing. It's just like a instinctual, like something feels, like just it's what's the way of putting it? It's more to point to the fact that some character's close to another one. It's kind of like how when during the Sasuke retrieval arc, when Choji is like, uses his pills, and he's like losing life or whatever, or passes out. Shikamaru knows that something happened to him without actually being there, because it's supposed to like highlight how close they are, that one can feel when the other one is in danger or something. So many missed opportunities. Deborah is a whole missed opportunity. You got the king of the demon realm, and he doesn't get to fight Piccolo, the literal reincarnation of the demon king Piccolo. It's just all he does is get some whatever fight with Gohan, then get outclassed by Boo, and then eaten. That's his whole role. And then they make his, years and years later, they make his sister the main villain of a video game that he's not even in. until the sequel. So I said, there's so much weird stuff, like just the choices they make, or just they're all over the place to me. Creating Saiyans and Namekians and other universes was unneeded, especially when we know where Namekians come from already. Well, I think all the other universes are unneeded because outside of the Universe 6 and Tournament of Power, which easily could have only been 4 universes, that way you would have had more screen time for everybody. We didn't need the other universes because they're not featured in really any of the story that's not these stupid tournaments. I mean, I really liked Kaba, so I'm not going to go full in with that, thing of like making like to me it makes sense that Universe 6 as the parallel to Universe 7 has the same species in it. Um but my issue comes from the fact that they introduce again new characters, do nothing with them. Oh, look, 2 new Namekians that are strong, and then all they do is get knocked out of the ring, and that's it. We don't know anything about what their planet Namek is like. Did they get blown up by Frost or some other Frieza equivalent? There's nothing there. You don't even have like a throwaway line of dialogue or anything, just nothing. So that's why I said they're just gonna keep introducing more and more characters, and when we get no actual growth or development, you see why. Look at Hit. We met him back in Universe 6 tournament. Knew nothing about him besides his profession, how old he was. And he shows this redeeming quality of himself of like, passing up winning the tournament like Goku did following his example. He shows up in 2 episodes of the show for some assassin deal with Goku that was goofy. Then he's in the Tournament of Power where he just plays second fiddle to Jiren and gets knocked out and ultimately isn't even the last person from Universe 6 still standing. So it was really just a poor use of that character. They could have just wished for the Saiyans to come back, then made an arc based around that, especially for a tournament with Roshi and Krillin. I guess whatever. It is what it is. I have a whole bunch of problems with that show, and it would take like 10 streams to even be able to articulate all of it. Bunch of characters that do nothing, bunch of new characters that are interesting, but again are underdeveloped. The same 2 characters that we've been seeing for the last God knows how many years getting used over and over. Like that's why I said the last chapter, as much as I'm not a Goten or our present Trunks fan, I liked it because it did something different. We haven't really even had like a Dragon Ball character in school since the beginning of the Buu saga. Like that's how long it's been since we really got to see one of them just, in a setting with people their age or kids their age or whatever. So I am looking forward to this arc based off of that chapter, but we'll see what happens. I'm not gonna get too excited. They might just go back to being the Goku and Vegeta show before you even know it. But yeah, I'll probably well, let me see what time is it. I'll give myself another minute. But yeah, it just seems to me that if you're going to introduce a bunch of new characters and you're going to have this like ongoing series, because remember when I brought up Young Justice earlier, that's a show that can't control if it gets canceled or not, right? Um, but again, it knows it can get canceled, which is why I think it's even more ridiculous. Keep introducing all these characters, whatever. But with Super and with Boruto, these are 2 mangas that are apparently going to go on until the creators deem fit. So if Super is literally about next year is going to be at chapter 100. So if Super can go on for as long as it wants, why can't we get actual development for some of these damn characters? I don't understand it. And it's like if you need to be a weekly thing or have a second manga that's drawn by somebody else, do that too. I don't know. It just seems so weird to me, like to just keep expanding the universe, but then like of this series, but then not. exploring any of it ever. Like all these arcs are on Earth, or you know what I'm talking about. It's weird to me. I don't quite understand the purpose of it because it's like the expansion is artificial. It doesn't mean anything. It's like if I told you, hey man, there are 50 states in the US, but you only get to travel to three of them. It's like, well, then you might as well not even tell me about the other 47 because I'm never going to go there anyway. So it's just weird to me. But I'm gonna get off of here. I think I made my case. Um, nice discussion on fiction for once, and I'll be back next week for the, I guess, last stream of the year, or I might be back. I should be back on Monday as well because but there's some like weird stuff going. You know, the day after Christmas, we don't know what kind of drama there will be. So see you and have a good Christmas.